Hey Skyfarers, and welcome to Aethercast, the Kharadron Overlords podcast, where today we're talking about endless spells, specifically our top 10 alternatives to the Warp Lightning Vortex. But before we do, let's meet the crew for tonight's show and have a little chat about the news. So it's just the two of us this week, unless Quan wakes up in a little bit. Maybe he will. Joining me on the show, we have our avatar of Grombrindle, Duard and Max.
Hello, everyone. Hello. How's everyone doing?
Oh, I'm good. If you're in the chat, let us know how you're doing. Say hello. I hope you're well as well, Max.
I am, yes, thank you.
Good.
Talking about Grombrindle. It's not Grombrindle, but it's something similar to Grombrindle. Painting up my Godric. A little conversion I made.
There you go.
Oh, there he is. With his beer and
holding a beer.
And a proper axe. Not that Fire Slayer axe and some little stuff. Yep, painting him up for a Barrack Fring list, maybe. Yeah. We'll see.
Cool. And also speaking of Grombrindle, that kind of ties into some news because the Warhammer community article mentioned that they've heard rumours of stuff going on under Shamon.
Under the mountains of Shamon.
Yes.
We know who used to live under the mountains of Shamon.
Well, we say used to. We also know that it was sort of rumoured in the Firesayers Battle Dome that Grungy was under there. So I think that leads. Well, it's further sort of hinting that the stories in White Dwarf and that are going to lead up to, I don't know, something Broken Realms related for Duardin.
Yes, definitely. We're hoping. Sorry, that's a cut. 2 seconds.
Nice. So hopefully, after Broken Realms Kragnos, we'll have Broken Realms Grombrindle or Broken Realms Grungy. Something like that will be cool.
Definitely. So there's hope. I mean, it's all about elves currently, but who knows?
Yeah, well, Kragnos doesn't look like it's going to be elves, so...
No, I think he's probably the destruction Broken Realms guy. So we have, so far we have Morathi and Teclis for the elves. Then we will see Be'lakor with his huge model. Very cool model for, I think that's going to be some kind of old Chaos Demons, Legion of Chaos Ascendant, what they tried out in Wrath of the Everchosen. A bit fleshed out. Be cool. Have all the mixed demon. So we had all the mortals, Slaves to Darkness, and Slaanesh mortals, and so on. And now we'll probably have more demon stuff. That's great. And then, this Kragnos, who I believe it makes sense, the interpretation that he's the guy from Beastry, from the Underworlds, that card tile game. Where we'll be getting all these cool little warbands from. Where I think we recently had a video made by you on the best of the warbands. Why? Obviously, Funrix
best for KO players.
Best for KO players. Best value for your gold, which is important for KO players. So that's cool. Check that out if you haven't yet. And I think he'll be the story. The stories we read, the whole narrative so far was all the destruction people are following Gordrak, is that his name? To I think Excelsior city.
I think Excelsior is a gate. Or it might be a city as well.
Probably a city around the gate. I don't know. But it's the same place that Sigvold is heading to after he fought some Fire Slayers in their hold with Galotus, the big guy from Slaanesh. So everyone's going there. There's something happening there. I think Gordrak, his plan is to use that battering ram that he found to punch down the gate to Azir and fight Sigmar.
Yeah.
So it seems that I think that's maybe the idea of the Broken Realms book there for Gordrak is going to be that story with this Kragnos character.
One thing that did occur to me with Broken Realms, and it only sort of popped into my head today, was what it potentially means for Cities of Sigmar going forwards, because they keep doing these things that sort of interact with it. And at some point, it's going to become a thing where only half the allegiances are actually in the book, in the battle tome. So maybe it will lead up to a new Cities of Sigmar battle tome, or
could be
some sort of replacement, because like we've got high elves now with the Lumineth, and if we have like Broken Realms, Grombrinder or Grungy, and it's like a replacement for the dwarves, or like an update, then maybe they will retire some stuff at some point.
Could be, because I mean, Cities is already just like a remained in stock book. All the stuff they just carried over from Warhammer Fantasy, basically the latest stuff from Warhammer Fantasy, the newest kits, which are already old. I mean, from 2010, I think, even earlier, some of them, the plastic kits. So it could be that now this was just a placeholder. No, for 2 years you can play that stuff, and then eventually we're gonna either put them somewhere else or get new kits. So we've seen these new Blade Lords, basically are sword masters. We've seen the hammer guys from the Lumineth. So that's something new, but same category of maybe they're a reinterpretation of the what were the guys with the axes, the white lions for Warhammer Fantasy. So maybe we'll see a new interpretation of Iron Breakers and Hammers, something like that.
Yeah, well, it might be like they retire the cities in the old book, and then they only have like these new ones. So instead of having Ampelgard as an option, you only have whatever it's called,
Kharadron.
The Kharadron, and then you only have like the new city in Uhl-Ghysh, and then they're bringing a new city in Shamon.
I mean, those cities' allegiance aren't too vast. Basically, it's 3 spells, 3 artifacts, 2 abilities. Command is 2 free traits, and that's it. So it's a 2-pager for each city. So I don't think there's any downside to have a book with 10, 12 cities.
Except that it lets them retire the kits, maybe. They
can retire the kits without the city. I mean, Phoenicium, they are connected to do that, but who plays that city anyway? The other ones are not bound to like single kits. You just need Greywater has that affects Rune Lords and Iron Drakes and so on, but you can rewrite those and just say, a new kind of Dwarven unit, a new kind of missile unit, and keep the concept. Evolve it, then it's going to be something else, because the story changed the city, something else, but it's basically the same name, same abilities, just different name. But I doubt we'll see that within the next half a year.
No, this is like long term.
This is like when all the Broken Realms books are through, AOS freeze here, and then they'll do like this is 2022, like the second half. My personal impression. But what we've seen, one thing we discussed, I think, maybe not on the show, but we had a rumor engine of some shields, and I think Tom Lyons said, "Oh, this looks like dwarves. It has a hammer and a kind of sprocket or a gear on it, and it has an axe on it, so it could be like a dwarven thing." I believe that shield is the one we see in that little animated video for Kragnos.
Yeah, he's carrying that on the side of the horse, well, not the horse, but
his arm. He has like a shield with little shields dangling down from it. So he's getting a model, and he's not a dwarf. He doesn't look like a dwarf to me. So yeah, he's that whole also quite Eastern style of shield and decor. I think that's his thing. But yeah.
No, I mean, other than that, I don't think we haven't done a show since Cons tournament, have we?
Yeah, quite some time. There's been a few things, not much KO related. I think we'll see a pre-order for Cursed City next Saturday. Because they keep coming out with short stories and lore and little snippets on Warhammer community, and they keep saying very soon. So I think tomorrow night they'll announce that it's on pre-order next Saturday.
Well, they gave us some rule snippets for some of the heroes, but not for the KO guys. So hopefully we'll get some rules.
Yeah, we'll get the remaining ones soon. We'll get the remaining ones next week. We know that he is they have 3 classes in the game. Enforcer and 2 other ones. And it said, and he's the same class as the Ogre, which I don't have the name, but it was like the tank, defensive brute. So he's. I thought he'd be like a marksman, like shooting from behind with his harpoon, but it seems to be he's more of he can take a hit. Maybe we'll see that reflected in his rules, like he gives up reroll saves or I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, and he's I can't remember what it is now, like a trade
Commodore,
fleet Commodore, something like that.
He's a Commodore, yeah. He's a new rank, so he'll not be a Chemist or a Admiral or anything. And I'm pretty sure all these heroes are named characters.
Yeah, seems like it.
So he'll be unique. So no traits, no traits anyway, because he doesn't fit within the categories or keywords that we have in the book. Yeah, unless he's an Admiral or a what's his Engine Master. So we'll see. He'll be, like kind of a 140 points hero with one ability and probably locked into a Skyport. Yeah. I'm afraid.
Yeah, which is a shame.
Probably Barak Nar. Hopefully not. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen. I mean, his uniform is kind of blue, so he might be Barak Monarba or Zilfin potentially, but it's more of a navy.
Could be Zilfin, could be Nar. I don't think it's any of the others. Or Nar. Yeah. I don't know. But he's there. He's a guy that brings all of them to the city in his ship. And I believe he's trying to recover something.
Okay.
So he's there for some personal gain.
Well, there was Skydocks there, so he could just be he and a load of.
Yeah, the Skydocks belong to the dashing guy that walking around with his gun. That one character who's like a nobleman's son, and his family, they owned that Skydock. That was their merchant quarter. So. We'll see. We'll see when we see the rules and the books and everything. I'll probably pre-order it because it seems like a cool game. And by the looks of it, once you painted all those minis in that box, you have half of Soulblight army. All the skeletons, because they look alike. They're the same design. So are the ghouls, which is a neat thing.
Yeah, although the question will be is how many you get and then how many are unit sizes. Because there isn't 10 in there, is there?
I think it's 10.
Okay, because they have done things in the past.
It's 10 ghouls for sure. It's because the kit, like the sprue, is 5, and then they just double those. Because you can see from the pictures, each one is represented twice with different color scheme. And for the skeletons, I think it's 5.
Well, hopefully they're actually in just usable numbers, and it's not like you get 8 and they're a unit of 10. Because the old
Stormcast, the old Stormcast kit. Yeah, here's free, whatever it was, but you need 5.
Yeah.
Why? So yeah, I mean that box is interesting. We've seen then the preview with more Soulblight stuff. So far, it seems that it's just Death Rattle, like classic skeletons, ghouls, vampires, blood knights. We'll probably see some undead bat swarms, huge bats. Those are very cool, like the giant bats. So yeah, that's cool. Interesting army. I'm not sure if there's a way not to play hordes. I might be interested because I really like the design of those. But if it's like you need 40 skeletons and 200 ghouls, and no, thank you.
Well, here's the other thing, because they've upgraded the kits and update the kits. There's more detail on them now, so it's not like you can paint up 10 skeletons just with like a base color and a dry brush and
Wraithbone and contrast. Yeah.
So yeah, and then obviously we've seen a lot of leaks now for Lumineth and stuff.
A lot of
we can't go into it too much.
Elves,
but
so that's always nice and tasty. Stupid elves. I mean, let me say this.
TLDR is there's a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff. A lot of exceptions to the rules.
Yeah. But they won't fit everything in one list. So
no. But there's potential NPE in there.
Yeah, we'll see what the list look like. Those, from a KO perspective, those Swordmaster, Blade, what are they called?
Blade Lords.
Yeah. If 5 of them get into an Ironclad and the Ironclad is full, they will and they use their attacks where they get the number of attacks based on models in range. Well, then all the models inside the ship will count. So if you had 20 Thunderers in there, 5 heroes, and then the ship, so that's 26. So they'll have 26 attacks each.
And you get power of Hish off on their weapon.
And then so then if they're doing mortal wounds on 5s, they would average 43 mortal wounds.
Awesome.
So don't fill up your ships if you're playing against them. But that'd be fun.
I mean, most of those things that are like they can move after you charge them and so on, or after they shot, just shoot them. Like, just shoot them. I think KO is an army that has potentially an easier game against them. But there's some MPE there. We'll see the FAQ. We'll see the points and the lists, what you can actually put into a list and how it plays. They're much faster now. Before, Lumineth lists that you faced were rather slow.
Yeah, it was the exception was if they had what they call
Dawn Riders.
Dawn Riders, that's the ones. Yeah,
Dawn Riders.
Now they're going to have kangaroos. They're going to have the fox who can just move 48 inches potentially, and then another 24.
Shoot and then move for 24.
And then also moving
in your shooting phase, like you shoot him, you want to charge him to finish him off. He's just moved 24 inches away.
Yeah.
Okay. If he's got speed of Hish, he's just moved 48 inches.
Yeah, although I'm not sure how long speed of Hish lasts. Is it?
I don't know, but I think it's until next hero phase, because you do it in the hero phase, so it cannot be end of phase.
Yeah, it might just say
end of turn
for the next movement phase or something. Like in the next movement phase, at double their movement characteristics, something like that.
We can check, but I doubt it with elves.
They will probably.
Still, the problem is the thing that's a bit annoying is, so with speed of Hish, he's moving 48 already. A scroll with 24 inches move. Base move. I don't think we ever seen that before.
No, that's new.
So now 48, you can double that. The problem is with teleport, it's basically a teleport because you can move more or less everywhere on the board.
Yeah, it's better than teleport.
It's better because teleport you need to be 9 inches. He can fly, so he only needs to be 3 inches. And if you want to charge him, like if they don't FAQ the thing that it's at the end of the shooting phase instead of his or your shooting phase that he can move. Basically, you're 3 inches in front of him. Like, okay, I moved here. I want to charge him now. I need a 3-inch charge. He's gonna go, no, okay, I'm end of shooting phase. I'm gonna move, and he's gonna just fly 12 inches or 24 inches over you, behind you, on your objective. You're out of charge range, you cannot charge. For some armies, that's going to be just frustrating.
Yeah, or flick back behind a screen or something as well.
Behind the screen, behind your screen, he can get much easier onto an objective. Like a gun holder needs to be 9 inches away, so you can screen your objective. With 3 inches, you need more models to do that. You cannot have your 2-man unit or 3-man unit sitting there.
Yeah, like if you've got 10
10
Arcanauts sitting on an objective, he will fly over, kill 4 with shooting, then charge them, and then battle shock. And if he doesn't kill them, they battle shock off and take the objective.
Yeah, I mean, he's still one model, but still, it's a annoying thing. Like, you cannot leave your objectives alone. We'll see how it turns out, but it looks strong. I mean, a lot of new scrolls and a lot of new rules for Lumineth.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, I mean, I think that probably covers the news. So let's catch up with the chat. So we've got Alexander, Hernando in the chat, Jay Durfu, Oliver, Sar Aurelin. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Hi to all of you. And let's talk about some endless spells.
Yeah.
So before we do, just to clarify, I said alternatives to the Warp Lightning Vortex, but they're not ones that you can necessarily use in the same way. So these are just it's not ones like, they do the same thing as Warp Lightning Vortex, but not as well or something. It's just alternative picks for spell in a bottle, basically. Things that could be cool to use. So before we get into number 10, we've got some honourable mentions. Let's pick one at random. Blade Wind. That's one of the new ones from Daughters of Cain. 40 points. The reason that's an honourable mention is because it can take away the chance for cover for an enemy unit, and it does D3 more wounds. So
it's good against Idoneth in their first round.
Yeah,
because they all gain cover. It's situational.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be a word we're going to say a lot in this show. Situationally good. But yeah, it's situationally good. But unfortunately for Blade Wind, those situations are not that common.
I mean, for what it does for 40 points, that's fair. It's a fair price. The problem with KO is you're not paying only the price of the spell, but you're also paying the artifact slot. And with all the cool artifacts that we have access to, that's a big cost, so to say. So you want a big return on that investment. Because you need a battalion to get access to the second artifact. Then you need the artifact, so you're using an artifact slot. So yeah, there's some cost behind it. So you don't want to do a little stupid spell that does like D3 mortal wounds and that's it. That's not worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Question from the chat from Oliver. He says, "Can KO take bound endless spells?" And yes, they can. Do you have to be, depending on the spell though, you might not get much use out of it because you won't be able to move them. Because only Seraphon wizards can move them, and we only override the restrictions for casting them. Arguably, you could potentially move them when they're first set up, because then it says, after this.
It says the player. It says the player.
Well, it doesn't say who can set it, who can move it, but it just says when it's been set up, it can be moved, and then it's.
No, it actually says when it can move, the player that set it up can immediately make a move. And you are still a player, although you're not a Seraphon player.
So you've got one thing then saying that you can, and then another thing saying that you can't. So, I mean, that one's arguable. But then even after then, like, you wouldn't be able to move it turn 2.
No, it might even be that if you're facing Seraphon, they can use them.
The Seraphon will be able to move them. So,
not cool.
But yeah. So, but there is some play with bound endless spells. Just not all.
We'll see.
So other ones, other ones that are honourable mentions: Cadaverous Barricade and Shards of Valagar, both because they mess with enemy movement. The reason why they're honourable mentions is because they don't do it as well as potentially some other spells.
Yes, the problem with Cadaverous Barricade is models starting a move within 3 inches, so there's the option to dispel it before the moving phase. So potentially it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Then we have the Burning Head, which is 30 points. Reroll ones to hit. That's great. But actually, it's a damage spell. So if it can damage you if it's being moved and it's predatory. So maybe there the investment for bound is valid, so it doesn't move.
Yeah, because what you do is you put it down somewhere, say where you're going to put some Thunderers or something, so they can benefit from the reroll ones to hit. But if you have the bound version, then it means your opponent can't move the spell over the top of them.
Although I don't know the exact words on the bound one.
The bound thing is just that
on this one.
For the predatory ones, it's just that they can only Seraphon players can move it.
Okay, so, which is a bit annoying if you want to move elsewhere and it's not moving with you.
Yeah,
but it's
exactly.
Okay. It's a 30 point, but again, it's a battalion artifact plus 30 points for the reroll ones to hit.
Yeah,
and it will affect 2-3 units maximum.
Yeah, and the trouble is KO's power is that we can move everything, like a whole army to the other side of the board and then shoot something else. And then if you put that spell there, then you're going to fly high away from it. So that's a problem. What else we got?
But if you have like 30 points to spare, why not? But there's another one for 30 points that's I know you like.
Before we talk about that one, let's talk about Pendulum first, which is interesting because your opponent can't move it back towards you. Like you put it in a direction and it carries on in that direction. It's 50 points and it can do D6 more wounds, which is higher than a lot of other endless spells because most do D3, don't they? So there's that. The trouble is you set it up to go in a location and then it's easy for your opponent to avoid because they go, well, I know which direction it can move in.
So what you usually do with Pendulum is you set it up in front of a hero, deal the D6. If you don't kill him, start of next round, it's going to move. It can only move over him or stay like a millimeter in front of him. So either way, he's getting another hit of D6 if he cannot unbind it or dispel it. So that's like a trick that like I'm gonna guarantee kill your hero because you don't have any wizards or whatever.
The other thing you can do is you can anticipate where your opponent wants to move stuff. So if they have, say, if you're playing as Fire Slayers and they've got a big half-guard Berserker unit and they put them, on the line, 12 inches away from the objective. And it's obvious that, they want to move forwards towards that objective. So you set it up so that it will move towards that objective. So it will be where they are, where they are. But then if they either have to then move past it and in the direction it's going to move.
Yes. Although I'd argue they don't care about it.
No.
Because on a 4+ they'll ignore it, and on a 4+ they can ignore the mortals.
Yeah, maybe half Berserkers weren't the best choice of an example, but like a unit that is obviously it's going to move forwards to the objective. So
I'm not sure how big the base is, but there's some play around it because if you cannot set it up like behind someone, then it needs to stay in front. So you can actually screen it quite well because it's just a narrow line that you need to screen. So a conga line in front of it will stop it reaching your hero.
Yeah. And for 50 points, that it's basically something that only does damage, and there's a better option for that.
It's not as good if you can only cast it once. It's great in other lists where you can multicast it with, Nagash. He can just throw it out every turn.
Okay.
That's great. D6 mortal wounds every turn.
Cool. So last honourable mention, Scuttle Tide, very nearly made it into the number 10 spot. Matt Barker, that's been on the show a few times, he's quite keen on this. Well, at least in comparison to what we have in number 10. I mean, I don't want to oversell like how keen he's on it. But it's 30 points, so it's cheap. Which, I mean, this is the common theme. There's not a single honourable mention here. That's an expensive spell. And comes back to Max, your point about the investment of a battalion. So there's 30 points, it's cheap. The cool thing about Scuttle Tide is it doesn't have a range for how far from the castle it could be set up. So in theory, anywhere on the battlefield. However, it has to be wholly within 6 inches of a terrain piece. So there's that. So
which is not bad because some people bring their own terrain piece with them.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned Fire Slayers.
Yeah.
There's guaranteed some sort of priest next to it.
Yeah, I mean, OBR.
Although that one is like in the middle somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Seraphon. Lots of people have got them now.
Luminev.
yeah, Luminev have now.
They have a floating rock. Yeah.
Yeah. Which uses the garrison walls as well, interestingly.
And moves, so there's going to be some weird interactions coming.
Yeah. But the trouble with Scuttle Tide is it doesn't do a huge amount, does it? So you roll, it triggers quite often. So when you set it up, or if the spell moves, or if an enemy moves or charges to within 1 inch of it, then you roll 6 dice, and then you get a mortal wound for each 5 plus. So you average 2 mortal wounds.
What you can do with this is, if there's like a little 10-man unit on your back objective, or their back objective, it just harasses them, on their way to the objective.
Yeah, it's because it's basically a wall. And it's one of the few wall spells that doesn't mess with our shooting, because like Cadaver's Barricade, that messes with our shooting, gives cover to models behind it. And there's some others that do that as well. Obviously, Prismatic Palisade really messes with shooting. So, but yeah, it can be used as a wall to block a channel or something. And interestingly, even though it's a predatory endless spell, it's one of the few ones that can't move after you set it up. Because most of them have a rule saying, once this model's been set up, you can move, but this one can't. Because actually then it'd be really good, because you'd set it up, it would do mortal wounds, and then you'd move it, and it would do mortal wounds again. But yeah, I mean, there's potentially some play with this with a defensive tool, almost, because if your opponent moves within range of it, they take mortals, and if they charge within range of it, they take mortals again. So if you sort of, if you want to move to 12 inches away from the enemy and blast away with guns, you could just put Scuttle Tide down.
If there's a terrain there.
Yeah, if there's
a terrain there, then you'll struggle to land your ship.
Yeah, exactly. But then, if you're going to move really close to the enemy, then they're moved to within an inch of it, potentially, because they want to be close to you for their charge. Or, yeah, I don't know. But it's interesting mostly because of that almost infinite range.
Yes.
Cool. Any other honourable mentions from you, Max, that you think I've missed?
No, I think we'll see the discussed ones in the top 10, like the real alternatives. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. I mean, to even have say 10 options for spelling a bottle that other than Warp Lightning Vortex is quite good anyway. So and we're covering a lot. So yeah, let's move on to number 10. See what it is. It's the Dais Arcanum.
What is this thing? Where does this come from? I have never seen this anywhere on a table. This is a Stormcast endless spell. It can only be cast by a Stormcast, and you don't have many Stormcast wizards floating about. That's maybe why you don't see them often, or the ones you see that are mounted. But this is great because it can be done by a Khemist. So because it only says caster, not wizard. And what it does, it's set up within 1 inch of it, and then you set up your caster on top of it. It's like a flying disc, basically, for 30 points. And it grants him a 12-inch move, a +1 save, and I think he can do some more unbinding or casting, which is not of interest for our Khemist.
Well, potentially. Because it's depending on how you interpret the wording, you could say that basically that means he can unbind. Because you could say that.
I'd say not.
Yeah.
Personally, I'd say because 1 extra unbind, but since he cannot do any to start with, unless he's in Baraknar, it could work.
Well, the exact wording is 1 additional rather than extra, paraphrased on here. But you could say like 1 is in addition to 0.
Okay, so there's an argument there, clear with your TO.
I'm not pronouncing it. Thank you for the chat is saying that it is extra. Okay, maybe I'm going from memory. So.
Okay, well, it's debatable, but that's not the reason why we use it. Not for the unbind without any plus, because that's not going to stop anyone. What it does is it gives your Khemist a 3+ save and a 12-inch move, which is awesome because now he can keep up with Engine Riggers, for example, because they move 12. And he can not only give his reroll 1s to wound buff in the first round, but he can give it in later turns. Also, interestingly, I know why you're laughing. Usually that buff, that etheric augmentation, cannot be used when he's in the ship. And you might want to keep your Khemist inside the ship just to keep him safe. -1 to be hit, +1 save. Just, if you're facing someone who can actually reach him with shooting. What this does is it actually teleports him out of the ship in the hero phase, because it says set up within 1 inch.
Yeah.
You set it up 1 inch of the boat, and then you place him on top of it.
And
so
unlike the things with the casting and stuff, there is an FAQ to back this up, which is the Balewind FAQ for Seraphon if they're inside
the garrison,
the pyramid. So there's a precedent to say that it will work, basically.
Yeah. So that's cool. That's a neat little trick, Get him out, and if you're in Urbaz, where you can buff 2 units, basically you can play that 2 12-man units of Engine Riggers with shooty guns, and he can move along with them, keep them battle shock immune, and give them reroll 1s to wound for 30 points. It's a nice trick. I tried it out once. It's fun. Speedy. It's a very quick hero, which also helps with, for example, places of arcane power. If you're playing that, where you need to
save as well,
where you need to walk onto or charge onto an objective. I mean, already you're only bringing 2 or 3 heroes. You're not going to charge your Khemist onto an objective, or run him on outside of Zilfin is like 10-inch with cogs, maybe a 12-inch, but that's already difficult. With this, great. He moves 12. He flies. He can move over people. He can get in position. It's a neat little thing.
I think I would have to double check, but I'm pretty sure the outside objectives in places of arcane power, you need an 11 to get onto it.
You can, on the top one, you can get if you're on the line, like the one above you. It's closer. Okay. The other ones are further away.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the middle one is 9 inches because you need to be 9 inches apart.
Yeah, the middle one is easy, and then the other ones are harder.
I mean, easy with a 4-inch move. That's not easy.
Yeah,
you
I
need
mean,
to
the thing
spend
is,
a command point for your
I
run.
mean, you can run onto it, so it's
I mean, basically, he's a hero who can keep up. He can fly. He's like an Entry Master now.
Yeah.
With dirigible, he moves 12 as a 3+ save, and he can actually get his gun in range with 12-inch move.
Yeah,
which is cool.
Yeah, and that's got -2 rend. As J Tofu ports out in the chat, 3d6 attacks, -2 rend, and if you've got Grudge Bear, you could, and he could have Grudge Bear as well for 2 damage, and his 12-inch move.
Yeah, it's still 4s and 4s. That's the problem with that gun. But okay.
But yeah, it's an interesting one. The other thing about the admittedly questionable thing about whether he can cast and stuff is if you say, oh, well, that he can, then in theory he knows realm spells, because it doesn't say, oh, wizards know these stuff. It's just literally like, here's a realm, there's a spell. So you could potentially make a case to say that he can cast that, but the realm spells are rubbish, so you don't take this for that.
There's one that gives +1 save, so that's good.
Yeah, if you're playing it around. That's the thing, is you don't know what realm you're going to be playing in, and then
no.
Although +1 save, if like
that's the shaman one. I think.
+1 save, because he's getting +1 on here, and it's +1 not cover. So then if you got him onto cover, like your 4+ save, Khemist is.
Well, you can fly him into cover, and you get a 2+ save.
Yeah, exactly. But then if you
you don't even need the spell.
Yeah, but then if you had the spell, then you'd like ignoring rend 1 basically as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that would
situational was the word, was it?
Yeah, situational is the word of the day. And yeah, that's already with some a lot of rules lawyering, which is honestly not how it's intended to work. So, you would expect a TO to rule against it. Is probably the fair expectation there. So yeah, I think we covered that. Let's move on to number 9. Let us know what you think.
One thing for the Dais Arcanum, that's really easy to convert this for KO. Basically, it's a flying disc, so you can have like some Endrins or some rocket hoverboard technical stuff. It's basic. You can build this from anything. You just need a base. You need a little flying stick that you have from your engine riggers, and then you just get some sort of discs with some technical tubes and stuff, and that's it.
I haven't thought about doing conversions for it. I actually have one half painted. That it's been sitting there half painted for like a year, because I was going to use it for a night encounter, but then spell dons and stuff in the new book come out, and yeah. So JDF in the chat says, we're Kharadron Overlords, so we're obligated by the universe to rules lawyer. Yes. I mean,
the code demands.
It is basically narrative. But yeah, let us know what you think of Dais Arcanum. Does it deserve to be number 10? Should Scuttle Tide have been higher? Do you think another spell should have maybe got in this place? Let's move on to number 9, which is Wildfire Taurus. So the reason this one is in here is mostly for its effect, which is any units that it passes over. Well, not what it passes over, but it can basically make units potentially fight at the end of the combat phase. So to unpack it a little bit, moves 12 inches, set up wholly within 12 inches, so it's got 24-inch threat range. Does D3 mortal wounds to units it passes over, or units within 1 inch of it at the end of its move, or D6 if the unit has 10 or more models, which is actually pretty good to have that little buff. And then the wording is actually units that are inflicted a mortal wound fight at the end of the combat phase. So potentially, if they negate the mortal wound, I would say they don't fight at the end of the combat phase.
Yeah, they ignore it. But still,
so it's fun for
a 24 plus 0.99 inch, so 25 inch. Let's say 25 inch. So you can throw that out like across the board.
Within is exactly 1 inch away or less.
Yeah. Okay. It's the whole 6 inches from the board
Yeah.
edge,
So
objective discussion.
yeah.
Okay. So yeah, 25 inches from
Yeah.
your ship. That's good. You can cover quite an area with this. It doesn't say that it needs to move in a straight line, so you can fly over, back. You can tack multiple units with this, which is awesome. It's just not only one unit, but it's multiple units. The downside, as you mentioned, is if they ignore the mortal wound, they have a spell ignore effect or anything, then it doesn't do anything.
I mean, I don't think that's the main downside of this. I think the main downside of this is because you want to use this in Zon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, if not, maybe Fring if you've got Fire Slayers units, but then
potentially.
Yeah, or some other Dwarden units. I mean, you could take in other things like multiple units of riggers. The thing is, if you like to make something, unless something else has got a fight first thing, and then depending when that activates, the whole activation wars, yada yada. Mostly this is going to be useful if you're charging more than one unit in at a time, or if you're charging in a ship and you've got like 4 heroes in it because they don't all fight at the same time.
Yes.
So good if you've got a hero boat, or good if you're multiple units of 6 riggers or 6 wardens.
Well, even if they charge you,
yeah,
and then you get the chance to
fight back
with your thunderers, you don't want to get hit first by 2 units or something.
Yeah, I mean I hadn't thought about it defensively. It's actually quite good for riggers.
You can have like a castle with a Khemist inside, and if someone hits that castle, already it has -2 potentially. Then you can just throw out the thing behind them, 12 inches, and tag them from behind, do some mortal wounds, and potentially screw with their activation.
Yeah. The thing that I would really want to be able to do with this is have cogs in the same list. And of course you can only have one. And then casting cogs without spelling a bottle is 7, and then you can't cast this. You definitely can't cast this.
No.
So you could take like a Night Encounter or something. But yeah, it's a 7 to cast. You can't rely on it. And
I mean, a 7 to cast is a 50-50. So
yeah,
it's okay. If you get a +1 from somewhere.
You just go something like other people are going to unbind it.
Well, that's the case with all of these 6 and 7 casting badges. Other people will unbind them or will dispel them.
They dispel them, yeah, but they will unbind. They can like spelling a bottle can't be unbound. It could be dispelled a turn later. If you're trying to cast cogs normally, then it will get unbound potentially by someone.
Well, you can cast him outside of 30, so then it's only Krog.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, if you're facing Krog, then you're already screwed anyway.
Because this would be really fun if you could drop down with multiple ships, multiple gun haulers, and then you've got like 3 units of 6 wardens in Zon, and then they all fight first.
Yeah, if you want to go MSU Skywards or something like that.
Yeah.
So because you want to because you don't want to play a 12-man unit, but you want to play 2 6s, but charge the same enemy.
Or you can
guarantee
units. Yeah.
You can guarantee that they will fight before that enemy unit.
Yeah.
Well, guarantee, if you deal the D3 multiples. The thing I dislike about this is the 80 points cost.
It's pricey, and then it is
competing with pricey
for other things.
What it does, it's competing with 70 points Geminids, which have a similar effect because it's a -1 to hit or -1 attack can be awesome in situations. So yeah, it's cool. It's a neat trick. People don't expect this from I think when they face your list and then there's a Taurus coming out of a bottle. And it screws with some people's plans. This will screw with smashing and bashing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing is, Like, we're mostly talking about this from a rules perspective, but it's kind of, as endless spell models go, it's one of the cooler ones, I think. Like,
most of them are cool or can be adapted to be cool.
I mean, there's some.
It also
there are
has
some that are
quite a large
rubbish.
base. So what we always need to remember with predatory endless spells is just the blockage of movement you can do with them.
Yeah. The one thing you could do with this, if you wanted to convert it up, is you could paint the ball all metallic. And
brass ball.
Add some cogs, to shove some cogs. There's like a hollow inside. That's just my tip for everything now, is just shove cogs inside it. That's fine. We'll talk about that a bit more later. I should have put a picture of it.
I mean, basically, you just make this the brass ball from Wall Street, who's flaming.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's play. It's cool.
Yeah, and you can make that all like aetheric flames if you want.
Definitely. In Magic, make them whatever you want. I mean, you don't need to take the ball if you're not playing at Warhammer World, then just take the base and make it some mechanical rhino, whatever.
Or get one of those Adeptus Mechanicus cavalry horse things and sort of cut it in half so it's only the front half of it. So it's like a big mechanical running thing.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, let's move on to
number 8.
The Soulscream Bridge. So,
yes.
I mean, if you've watched other shows, you'll probably know why this is here. This is a thing you can do with care is basically, this is like having a ship almost. That's 100 points, and it can transport more than an ironclad.
This can transport a lot of units that you can fit within the 6 inches.
But the really cool thing is it can transport ships as well, which let's explain the spell a bit more in case people don't know what it is. So it's 100 points, which is a lot, but yeah, cast on a 6, so it's easy to dispel. And sets up wholly within 6 inches, and then you set up. So you set up one, because there's 2 models, wholly within 6 inches, and then the second one, wholly within 12 inches of the first. And then in your movement phase, any units wholly within 6 inches of one of the bridge spells can then be removed from the battlefield and set up wholly within 6 inches of the other one. So you've basically got like a 12-inch teleport, and they have to be 9 inches away from the enemy.
Yeah, which is, it's more than 12 inch because you can start behind the bridge and then end beyond the second bridge. If you're playing the Realm of Death, it's going to be 24 inches. That's where it's interesting. That's why you see this often in cities units, city lists, because they have the empowered version. 12 inches, not as much, or 18 inch on average, but it's still great. And the whole, basically the whole idea of moving a ship, then moving the ship, then if you're playing attack squadron, disembarking Arcanauts from the ship, they get a lot of move out of.
Yeah, the ship won't be able to move. Like anything that crosses the bridge can't move afterwards. The ships can still fly high afterwards, disembark. But units can get out of the ship. Disembark is not a movement. Getting out of the ship is not a movement. And normally you can't get out of a ship if it's moved or if it's flown high. But
now you can.
There's nothing saying you can't get out of a ship if it's gone across a bridge, a magic bridge. So you can move 3 frigates across in Zilfin or Baraknar and then get out 15 thunderers from each and have 40 or 45 thunderers, depending if you've got heroes as well. And then set them up. And disembarking doesn't have the clause of being 9 inches away. So the ships will be set up, have to be set up 9 inches away because they travel across the bridge. But then the thunderers will get out 3 inches away and then get their 12-inch guns into range, even the fumigators into range, and they get their +1 from pin them, shred them, whatever they are.
Finish them.
I was going to say punish for some reason, but it will be punishing.
Finish them. There's one issue with this. Because you need to be wholly within 6 when you start your travels. You need to leave a gap in your deployment. like you need to account for where you're going to place the first bridge.
Yes,
like when setting.
although you can, depending on how many ships you're moving, you can just set it up in front of your deployment.
Yes, obviously, but then you'll struggle like to get everything within 6. Saying you want to transport the 3 frigates, then you need to account for it. The problem with that is, one, you're putting your ship with your chemist in the front line.
Yes.
Where you might not want to put him. Because you want to get most out of the 12-inch move, you're going to want the chemist to be farthest possible. Because there's no sense in having him in the corner, then moving just like to the front of your deployment zone. You could have deployed there anyway. The issue, the issue is with this is you're in threat range, and if you're creating like a little hole for the bridge, if the enemy can put something inside that hole, be it an alpha charge model, be it a comet, be it a spell, whatever, you can't place it. So that's like the classic problem you have. You always see that bridge-shaped hole in cities' armies in their deployment. Like in the middle of their line, there's like a little hole. If you can throw a comet in there, that's it. They cannot put their
I think I did work out that with 3 ships, you can pretty much deploy them. If you can work out how to deploy them, you can set up the bridge outside of your deployment, just in front of them, and they will be in range. You need to make sure that the chemist, the one with the chemist in, is in the middle. And
again, you're putting your ships on the front line.
Yeah. So
which I don't want to put my ships on the front line.
No, it creates this issue where you have to go first, or you have to know your opponent's threat ranges, and therefore potentially deploy further back so that you can make them go first. So you've got to go for drops, but then if you're going for drops, then you can't take all the things you want to take to make this really work. And we mentioned this thing about situationally good. This one is situationally good if you build the situation in your list. So you have to build around it. So some things are situationally good depending on your opponent's list, and this is situationally good depending on your list.
This is I like the whole teleporting ships and disembarking. That's nice, but it's a meme, to be honest.
Yes.
It's not going to happen. What you can use the bridge for is to move 20 thunderers and not use an ironclad to do it. You can move, because they have 18-inch guns, you can move them now another 18-inch forward. You create a long threat range with your thunderers. You can use it to teleport, like guarantee, because this is cast is it cast on a 6? Are you sure? I thought it was higher than that. You can guarantee the movement for your Fire Slayer allies. You can guarantee your movement for Iron Drakes that you brought with you. It's a setup, it's not a move. So people who benefit from that, like Iron Drakes, who then get an extra shot, they're happy about this. They get in range and still have the double shot. So I see it as a ship movement or ship fly high for units that cannot or you don't want to put in a ship. Or you don't want to use a ship to do that. So that's a nice cheaper guaranteed way around that without, like, I don't want to use a ship, I don't want to use an ironclad, but I still want to move 20 thunderers.
Yeah, or
you can do that.
Get models onto an objective.
Exactly.
Because, they can't, if you teleport a ship, if the units are inside
if you're not built in,
then you're not one model on, even if the ship lands on an objective, you're one model. But with this, you can get
of course
15 thunderers or whatever.
Outside, you can do the Zilfin trick outside of Zilfin, basically.
Yeah.
Thunderers on an objective.
Another thing you could do is you could use this in Zilfin. You would still use the Zilfin fly high to get the thunderers out, and then you'd cast this turn 2 to move them, because obviously if you put them back in the ship, and then they wouldn't be able to get out until another turn later. So you could use this to redeploy them, potentially.
Yes. The problem I have with this is 100 points.
Yes.
For
it needs to come
18-inch move that you need to... In theory, cool, I can move 18 inches forward. that's not the reality, because there's going to be a terrain piece there, there's going to be models there, there's going to be objectives elsewhere, enemy units, and the way you deployed. So the 12 inch is too short for that. The 24, if it's empowered, okay, yeah, I can play with that, because it gives me flexibility to go left or right. But 12, 100 points for the 12 is a lot, in my opinion.
Well,
the nice thing is you can still move back. You can be in combat and use the bridge to get out of combat. You can do a fly high with Thunderers. If you say, "Oh, I'm in combat," honestly, I don't think I'll win this. Just jump back through the bridge and go where you were before, or get your hero to safety. Yeah.
If you're gonna try and say fly high a couple of ships, or not fly high, but teleport them with the bridge to get that extra distance, to get more than that 12, then that's when the problem with terrain and stuff really comes into play, because it's finding a space to basically, this is a frigate sized base, this spell, and then you want to find space to get that 12 inches from your original starting position, and then also have space for 2 frigate-sized bases.
Yeah,
and then have space again afterwards to then also get Thunderers out.
Although this is a model, you can put this on terrain.
Yeah, and then also getting the models that go across and get out onto terrain. But it's depending on the type of terrain, still not necessarily practical.
Yeah, that's what I meant. It's not the theory of going 12 forward, but it's how can I actually manage this measuring wise.
And the best way to use this is to have lots of 2+ ships possibly to get the most out of it. And the more ships you have, the harder that is then in the that target location you want to go to.
The whole ship thing's not going to happen. The longer you talk about it, it's not going to happen.
Well, this is
just one of those lists in your head, like that you've been accumulating for a year now without playing games. So it's just weird. 48 Skywardens in Baraknar list, whatever they were. This is one of those. I think this is neat to have teleport. 40 Arcanauts, move 40 Arcanauts with a bridge in Mornar. Or wherever you use 40 Arcanauts. Yeah, I think that's basically the bridge. And if you're wondering where this model is from, this was from the Forbidden Power expansion.
Yes, and that's the other thing that holds it back, because a lot of people have Malign Sorcery because that comes with loads of Ender spells and was the first one, and less people bought Forbidden Power.
Again, I built my own bridge for my cities. Dwarves is just some rune stones floating. It was done in a day. You just get the 2 bases and build on, some arcs that you teleport through, some stargates, some mechanical things, whatever. Some portals. Just buy the realm portal from GW, that model, put it on there sideways, because they come in a set of 2. Done.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting, but
there's play in this. It will surprise. There's some play in this, but I think place 8 is correct for this.
I think it's one of those things as well where you will start using it for one thing and you'll discover, I think, that using it for other stuff is better. Like, if you take it for doing these weird shenanigans, you actually find, instead of doing this weird shenanigan, it's just better just to get some units onto an objective. Yeah. So let's move on to 7.
Number 7.
Darkfire Rift. Potentially lower than I think maybe some people would have expected. I mean, a lot of these ones in the middle
it's due to the magic word.
So it's 80 points. Cast on a 6, so easy to dispel. Sets up wholly within 9 inches and moves 12. It does D3 mortal wounds to everything it passes over or within 1 inches at the end of its move. And you get +1 mortal wound for each wizard or other ender spell within 12 inches at the end of its move.
Other ender spell is important, so itself doesn't count.
Yeah, they didn't mess up on the wording with that one.
No, they were clear on this. Potentially, this can do a truckload of mortal wounds against the correct army.
I think this spell, this endless spell, is the reason that the limit on endless spells in the last GHB to limit armies to 3 endless spells each was the reason why. Because there were people taking multiple endless spells, then casting this, and it was doing like 19 mortal wounds to every unit it passed over.
You need to play around this because you count the endless spells of wizards at the end of its movement, so within 12. So you need to I've played this once against Lumineth, and it was glorious because they all have a wizard as their unit captain.
Yeah.
And so you need to move around. 12-inch move is not too much, but you can tag people and then set it in the middle. And if he has or your opponent has let's say 2 endless spells and 2 wizards plus the 4 wizards around, so that's already +8, +9. I think I've when I activated per unit, I did 10 or 12 mortal wounds, and it affected 3 or 4 units. And then I got the priority for the double. I gave it away, moved it again, did the whole thing again, and that was his army. So it dealt 30 mortal wounds per turn. I used it twice. That's just stupid, to be honest.
But then there will be cases where it will just do D3 or just do 2 units, and that'll be it. Because they haven't got wizards and stuff.
And that's exactly the reason why we put it on position 7, because it's great against wizards or casting armies.
Situationally good.
It's less good against. You play this against Fire Slayers, it's going to do D3 mortal wounds, which are going to get ignored.
Yes, because the other thing is the runic firewall, and their endless spell things are not endless spells. They are magnet invocations, so they don't give.
They don't count
to this either.
Nope.
To answer a question in the chat, Philip John Ryan says he thought that the spells couldn't be unbound if they're in spell in a bottle. So they can't be unbound in your initial cast. So the first time it's set up, they don't get a chance to unbind it. But in future turns, the opponent does have the opportunity to dispel it.
Yeah,
so that's why we're putting the casting value on there, because that is relevant, because there are some that are very difficult for them to dispel turn 2 or turn 3, and there are others that are easier.
Yeah, this one's one of the easy ones. They need a 7 to do it. They can never unbind spell on a bottle spells, but they can always dispel them later.
Yes,
that's the difference between the 2 words. And I apologize if I sometimes confuse them.
Everybody does it. Everyone mixes up those words. And interesting, this spell, I'm currently painting one, a conversion.
Oh, I wonder who gave you the idea for this one.
I just realized I should probably actually make that so people can actually see it. There we go. It's a bit rough at the moment because the last stage I've done is dry brushing. So I've got purple on my gold and stuff. But yeah, that's that.
That's a good use for the Brock entry.
Yes. Well, I put a second Brock Gronson just to make this. I went cheap on eBay. And I will do a Celestian Prime at some point, copying you as well.
Yeah, I did the other way around. I bought a Brock for the Celestian Prime, and then I had this Endrin, and then I said, "I'll just do a Darkfire," and because I wanted, there's 2 spells in that Slaves of Darkness box that are a good use.
Yeah, well, I got 2 Slaves to Darkness boxes now as well because I used the Darkfire Demon with Flames for my last gun hauler. So now I've spent ages trying to figure out how to magnetize it or copy it with blue stuff, and it just didn't work very well. So I just bought an extra kit. So yeah, I had 3 boxes of endless spells arrive on the same day from the postman.
Not very dwarfish.
No, well, it's very Kharadron Overlords.
Magic.
And, yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's a great spell. The base is not too big, so you can fit it in between units and land and place it.
Yeah, smaller than a
great
gun
against Siege, Lumineth, Seraphon, potentially cities if they're playing Hallowheart, but it can be useless against Sons of Behemoth or Fire Slayers.
Yeah. And when we were talking about the Soulscream Bridge, you mentioned crazy lists that I come up with in my head. So there is a thing you can do with this, where you could take a Night Encounter and an Everblaze Comet, and then you can mercenary in a Flesh Eater Quartz wizard, and the mercenary rules for Flesh Eater Quartz wizard means it deploys off the table and then comes on onto the table 6 inches, only within 6 inches of the board edge. So you get you basically cast your Everblaze Comet from 36 inches away, outside of unbound range. Hopefully cast whatever ender spell you pick for your Flesh Eater cast wizard, and then you cast Darkfire Dreamerit, and it does more wounds with +2 because you've got maybe +3 because you might have the Flesh Eater Quartz wizard there as well as its ender spell.
But that mercenary wizard is 240 points, is he not?
Yes, this I did say. I preface this with crazy list. Not advocating this is a good thing to do, but it's a meme list basically. But yeah, you can. So you will do D3 +3 potentially, and you'll get the mortal wounds.
Well, you can get more.
You'll have
more casters. You get like a couple of Night Encounters. How much are they? 120? No, but they can cast ender spells.
Yes, but the ender spells don't have the range. So what's good about the Flesh Eater Quartz one is it comes off from a board edge. So they're ones that you can throw up far away. I mean, Comet is one, and then the second one you can just use, I don't know, something that is far away. That can move like 18 or 20 or. Well, you could just the trouble is like the idea would be Scuttle Tide and Comet, but you need spell in a bottle for this one.
What you need is a second spell in the bottle.
Yes, exactly.
That's what you need.
If you could have 3 spell in the bottles, then you could just cast 3 Demon Wrists and they'd all buff each other. And it'd be crazy. Well, you wouldn't be able to cast because you're limited per one in the spell model of the same type. But yeah, there's potentially a very crazy thing you could do there to buff it.
Potentially, but again, building around it. But it's if you're going to face in a tournament, there's your friends. They're going to play Lumineth. No mercy.
Lumineth are getting very popular at the moment. So
yes, take this.
Like when the Lay of the Land comes out after in the next week or so of how the list looks, you might see a lot of people taking Lumineth to tournaments.
Well, not within the next half a year because those models take ages to paint.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe. So there'll probably be. If they're really good, you will see some like statue Lumineth, like painted grey with some moss, or ghost Lumineth with rusty weapons, won't you, or something like that. Maybe. It will happen if they're good enough. Okay, so let's move on to number 6. We're getting close to the halfway point. Number 6 is the Purple Sun. So 50 points, cast on an 8. So that's difficult for your opponent to dispel in later turns because they would need a 9. Set up wholly within 6 inches of yourself and then move 9. And then each unit passed over by it, or within 1 inch of it at the end of its move, you roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in the unit. So if there's 10 models in the unit, you roll 10 dice. If it's just a hero, you roll 1 dice for that. Then for each 6+, a model is slain.
No fear, no pain.
Yeah. If units with wounds characteristics, what's the typo there as well?
6 or more, that's correct.
No, there's a typo.
With a wounds characteristic. Yeah.
Yeah. Of 6 or more, suffer 2d6 mortal wounds instead. And
now, this The
-1 bravery.
interesting thing about this is the FAQ states you still need to roll the 6+.
Mhm.
They don't just automatically. You don't just deal 2d6 mortal wounds, but you actually need to roll a 6 and then you deal 2d6 mortal wounds.
So this is basically pretty rubbish against heroes and
No,
single
this is a horde clearer.
Yeah.
This is your 40 plague monks.
Yeah, this will do nothing against Sons of Behemoth because they're all like
No,
single
it will block their
models.
movement because it's maybe taller than 4 inches.
I tell you what, because I have mine
I think
here.
it is.
Because we were talking about the base size earlier. I just got all the spells on my desk in preparation. Yeah, close. Let's get the inches side of the tape measure rather than the centimeter. Yeah, it's taller than 4 inches.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, this was a classic one in the beginning with all the casting. When it came out, it was great. Now it's 50 points. That's good cheap value. It's something that you can throw out in your turn, and if you don't get, like, if you get double turned, this is something that your opponent needs to think about if he has like a horde army, because it says, yeah, I can move this across your horde and potentially take out a couple, force a battle shock, whatever. Would I spend the investment for this? It's easier in KO because the problem with this being predatory, it can bite you in the ass. But with KO being in a ship, throwing it out and moving it elsewhere, it's less risky than having your army move up, throwing it out, and then it comes back flying towards you.
Yeah, you don't want your ship to stay near it because everything inside it will get hit. But it's really good depending on the meta, because if you've got lots of Nurgle, lots of fire slayers, because the full save mortal wound protection doesn't do anything against this. Obviously the spell ignore that fire slayers have, that would work.
That still works, but Nurgle is a good example.
Yeah, Nurgle,
all those -20 to be hit. Nurgle
well, the other thing is like Blight Kings. If you say unit of 20 Blight Kings and you roll 20 dice, and then you slay some models of 4 wounds each. So each one slain is like having done 4 wounds.
For models with 3 or 4 wounds, this is a great spell. Even 5 would be awesome. To slay a 5 model on a 6. That's valuable. And for 50 points, it's okay.
If hordes start becoming a big thing again, then this could be useful.
It's okay. It's a good thing. It's hard to dispel. Movement could be further. Again, I think in Shyish it moves 12 inches.
Yes. The other thing is, I haven't thought about much until now, is the realm rules they introduced in the GHB. The changes to them was now you basically roll off and one of you gets to decide the realm.
And you just choose,
So 50-50, you get to choose to be the realm for the end of spell you've chosen. And have it move further and be empowered, which is pretty good.
Or if you're going to a tournament where they already told you, we're all going to play in who knows what. Yeah,
if you're playing in Shyish, every game's going to be in Shyish, and it makes some of these spells better or whatever. One of the good things about this is the psychological value, because everybody knows what it does. So you take I think that everyone knows what Darkfire Demon Rift, or a lot of people know what it does. If you take some of these spells, and people are like, oh, what does that do? Whereas this one, and with it being a predatory one, really can potentially mess with your opponent's head for priority decisions.
Yes.
Because they know what it does, and it's got a reputation. Because it was when the end of spells first come out,
this was the bad guy. Yeah.
This is the bad guy with the googly eyes and the so everyone knows what it does. So let's move on to number 5, crossing the halfway mark.
Top 5.
I should have a little drum roll thing, or an intro set up for in at number 5. Actually, on that, we do have a new entry at number 5. New in the charts this week. The Bloodrack Viper. Which, we just talked about having all the spells on my desk, but this one is not on my desk. It's out of reach.
Awesome scoped. Great points cost, 40 points. And what it does basically is after you set it up with a 9 and moved it 9 inches, so 18-inch threat range, so to say, everything within 1 inch, so actually 19-inch threat range, you roll 3 dice, you choose 1 unit, and you roll 3 dice. And for each roll greater than the wounds characteristic, or equal or greater, is it greater or is it equal or greater?
It's just greater, so you have to
just
beat
greater.
It.
Are you sure? Because last time we talked about having like 5 wound heroes and killing them on a 5.
Let me double check, because that is actually quite important.
Yeah. And you just outright slay a model.
Yeah, which is again like what we were talking about with the
5 wound or 4 wound models. And this ignores the whole, slaying, ignores the whole feel no pain, everything. So you can either throw this at the hero, 5 wound hero, and just roll 3 dice. There's a good chance that you're just going to slay him. I think
it's
the defensive
equal
or greater. That's an important thing to know. So I think eels have 4 wounds. Those, defensive eels with a 2+ save and ignoring rend. You throw this in front of them, you can slay 1 or 2, which is awesome for 40 points.
Yeah.
Great move. It's a big round base. I think it's 100mm base.
Yes, it is, yeah.
So it covers some area, covers some space. And you can do this multiple times. You can just, if you get, same as if you get double turned, this is something that your opponent needs to remember. You can move this 9 inches and just slay models. And there's a good chance to slay models with this. This can slay heroes. This can slay, important pieces. This can hurt.
Yeah. Again, this is like a meta pick, because lots of 5 wound heroes about. This is great at taking off like just 1 5 wound hero. Nurgle potentially going to be coming up in the meta a bit more now with the new battalion, and a lot of their heroes are 7 wounds. I'm not sure about Softly Bile Piper what he is, because no one ever used to play him, but he's good 6. Now. He has a song about
probably is 7 because that's their number.
And he has a good song about farts, so he's going to be used a lot now.
Yeah, awesome.
To see what, because that is interesting to know whether he's a. Well, they wouldn't have changed his wounds.
But even again, as we said, you have that 5-man unit of Blight Kings. There's a chance that you can slay 1.
Oh, Sloppy Bile Piper, 5 wounds.
5 wounds.
He's going to die from.
He's going to get eaten by the snake.
Yes.
It's a great model. I love it. I love the scope. You can do a lot of stuff with it, like molten. Instead of blood, you can make it molten metal. I think Lee, you've painted one up. If you want to show, I'm gonna steal that idea and just do it. Yeah. That looks awesome, especially the black.
Earlier,
the black
just shoving cogs inside things. There you go. Shove some cogs inside. Got some more under the.
That's awesome.
In this.
Where's the tongue?
I didn't put the tongue because I didn't like the tongue.
Okay.
And I couldn't think of. I did play around with. Let me.
You can put like a little gun in the mouth.
I did play around with some things like that, and it just didn't look right. And the teeth get in the way. But I did. Yeah, I thought about like having a little flamethrower thing.
Yes.
But yeah, in the end, I just wanted to paint it because it arrived, and I had actually started painting the demon rift before. But then this arrived. Well, I say painted. I think I'd only built it. I built it. I started doing that conversion first, and then this arrived, and I was more excited about doing that.
No, definitely looks great, and I think there's some cool list tech with this.
Mhm.
If you can, especially in Sylvan, where you can actually reach like those small heroes. You can reach that hero on a Balewind, like not Crow because he has 7 wounds, but whatever you put on there.
At 40 points, let's say
40 points, that's awesome.
August, we get some points increases. That could be a lot more relevant than it is now.
I don't know about this. I don't think they'll increase because in Daughters of Cain, this is not as 18 inch. Well, yeah, okay.
I'm talking about KO get points increases.
Okay.
Yeah, because that could be more relevant. Like it could be like,
No, I don't
Warp
think
Lightning Vortex is harder to squeeze in the future or whatever.
Could be.
I mean,
could be. Yeah, that's the thing. 40 points, you can find space for 40 points.
The thing is, currently, you can quite easily fit a Warp Lightning Vortex in a KO list and have pretty much everything you want in it. So there's not much incentive to take the cheaper options, unless some builds, you start putting Thunderers and stuff in, then that's when you start running out of points a bit more.
For Warp Lightning Vortex, you need Zilfin.
Mm-hmm.
Or that one Mornar move your ship with an Admiral list.
Custom Skyport.
That's not a thing.
And Urbaz with an Admiral.
Yeah, but with this, having the 19-inch on some deployments, you let your opponent go first. You can hit stuff.
Mm-hmm.
No, I like it.
Yeah,
I need to try it out. Like make some lists.
The one thing that is a negative for it is the base size. It means it's easy for your opponent to deploy, so you can't put it next to a hero.
Yes.
100 mil base. But then for 40 points, you could just put it to block a channel, because actually 100 mils between 2 terrain pieces.
Just needed to put it close to the hero for the mind game. Like I can potentially move this into your hero next turn if you take the double.
Well, because here's the effect it could have is they don't move the hero forwards. And then if they don't move the hero forwards, can units move as far forward to get buffs from that hero? Because they've got to be wholly within whatever range of whatever hero it is. So there's that to consider. But yeah, let's move on to number 4, which is the Everblaze Comet. So we've mentioned that before.
This was very popular when it came out.
Mm-hmm. I'm sitting up there. I'm not going to get that one because everyone knows. I haven't done any cool conversions on that one, so there's no point.
I've done a cool conversion on that. Oh, cool. I've done a conversion on it. I used the Envern of a gun holder. No, it's in the club. I need to drive there in 10 minutes and get it. But you can see pictures on my Instagram if you're interested. It's Jordan Max on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's basically the whole of a gun holder with a fuse, so it's just a big massive bomb. This is awesome because of its range, 36. So no need for Zilfin in this. Just throw it out. Which for Stormcast means you can cast this outside of unbind range. We don't care because we cannot be unbound. And it's an AoE mortal wound spell. So when it comes up, the first time, everything within 10 suffers mortal wounds, either 1, D3, or 3 mortal wounds, depending on what you roll for the unit. And then at the start of the battle round, so not the turn, but each battle round, it does mortal wounds again. Guaranteed mortal wounds, unless they can ignore them. So there's no like Warp Lightning Vortex that it's on a 4+ or 3+ or 2+, which you can fail. This is just 1 mortal wound or D3 on a 4+. So it's you will damage things, which is great to plan. Like I'm going to throw this in, do some AoE to everything around, and then I'm going to go again and shoot some more, and I'll probably be able to kill whatever I'm trying to kill. Now, another side effect, nice bonus, is it's a -1 to cast aura for wizards within 5 inches, so you can disrupt your opponent a bit. Downsides, it's 100 points.
You know what would really tip this one over the edge? If it was -1 to casting, unbinding, and dispelling rolls for wizards within 5 inches, because then it would make it harder to dispel as well.
Mm-hmm.
That would be really cool. But it doesn't do that.
No. The issue with this is 100 points.
Yes.
Which is a steep investment.
Yeah. And when you're saying that you've got the option of Warp Lightning Vortex at 80 points.
Yeah, now with 80 points, the cool thing is this is a Stormcast spell, so you can double down. You can have an encounter. It's cast on a 6, so he's probably be able to do it. And you can Warp Lightning Vortex, so you can put down the Vortex. I know this is not a technical alternative, but it's an addition. Throw in the Comet as well. And then if your encounter is alive, you can dispel it and cast it again.
Yeah, I mean, I did that almost a year ago now with the very first tournament I went to with the new KO book. Unfortunately, I forgot my Night Encounter model at the tournament to take it to the tournament, but someone very nicely had one spare
in their pocket. Yeah,
they just had one spare in their case, and they let me borrow it, which is handy. If not, I would have had. I was only around the corner from where I live, so I could have gone home and got it. But that's what I was doing. The issue is you have almost unlimited range with your Warp Lightning Vortex with the Zilfin Fly High, but this is 36-inch range, so then that kind of dictates where you end up wanting to put your Warp Lightning Vortex because you want them to overlap.
It dictates where you put your encounter.
Yes, and that was the other thing, is I was 2 drops. And so I was either putting down my battalion or my Night Encounter first. You have to figure out where you're putting your Night Encounter so it won't be unbound and it's relatively safe. And you want to give away the turn as well. But
it's a nice thing. It's similar to Vortex because it's you can double tap if you get a double. You put it down. It does everything within 10. You get a double turn. It doesn't even matter if you get a double turn.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who gets the priority.
Start of round, it just does it again.
Yeah. So it's like you take the second. You want to take the second turn in the first. Like you want to give away the first turn, take the second turn, cast it, and then it goes off again before your opponent gets a turn and a chance to dispel it.
So there's a good chance to kill that hero, because there's a good chance you'll deal D3 or 3 mortal wounds the first time, and then another 1 or D3 the second time. So, you can kill a 5-wound hero with this.
Yeah, and then if you overlap it with Warp Lightning Vortex, and 5-wound heroes are just gone, pretty much.
Yeah, but that then again, investment stuff. It's a neat trick. Talking about alternatives. It's more expensive, but if your friend is complaining about Warp Lightning Vortex, this is a nice alternative.
Yeah, and we mentioned when we talked about the Demon Rift, like the possibility of using this with it, and of course I talked about the Flesh-Eater Quartz and stuff there as well. Which the Flesh-Eater Quartz thing is really building into it, but just having a Night Encounter and the Everblaze Comet and a Demon Rift is not necessarily too much of an investment. Because a Night Encounter on his own is actually relatively good. Because you get the auto unbind. He's actually a relatively survivable hero that can he's on a you're playing Total Conquest, you can sit on an objective and get you extra points for being a leader and stuff.
He has that suicide vest where he can just blow up people with D3 mortal wounds.
Yeah, and if you wanted to convert it, you could do it like a little KO suicide vest with all those little bombs. I'm not sure they're meant to be bombs, but the little time charges that come with the Sky Wardens, you can put them all over it with like a little jacket. And then because you say with the going off, it could kill a wizard. But if you add on Demon Rift, then 5-wound heroes are gone. And then it's also buffing the Demon Rift as well.
Although, personally, I think that's too much play around it, like build around it. But Comet, I think the bonus is it's an AoE, so you can damage multiple units. It's long range 36, and it's guaranteed mortal wounds unless they can ignore mortal wounds. But it's guaranteed to deal wounds.
The main thing about this is you don't need the Sylphin move.
Mhm.
So you can if you want to play Urbaz and still have Spell in the Bottle, because Spell in the Bottle is easy to get in Urbaz because you don't have you're not forced to take something with your first artifact.
Yes.
So you don't need a battalion to have Spell in the Bottle. So you can put this in and still have that. Right. Well, if if you deploy badly, I'm going to put this down and it's going to do more wounds on a load of stuff. So
you can always take Collector in others,
mm-hmm.
in our Skyports. Okay. Top three.
Top three, the big boys. So let's have a look, see what we've got. The Realm Scourge Rupture. So, we mentioned Matt at the beginning of the show when we talked about Scuttletide. He's used this in Barret Monarch on a few lists. Kron used this when it first come out a little bit. Cancon.
I use it. It's neat. I painted mine up. That's the other reason why I bought that box.
Yeah. This is
great.
A side note on all these endless spells is the trouble is buying all the kits or making all the conversions. But something like Slaves to Darkness, you get 2 in that one that are good. So also like the Stormcast. Well, if you buy the Stormcast one for every base combat, you also then get Dais Arcanum, which if you want to try that out as like a fun game, then you can.
Honestly, the Comet, it's a ball on it. It's a ball on a space. Just take a ping pong ball and sculpt some green stuff flames around it.
Yeah, magic.
Just make sculpt a styrofoam rock that fell from the sky. Yeah. It's not
just a crater. Just buy a crater and just be like, well, that's make a crater and everything else burnt up in the atmosphere.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's the fact that you can get this and some of them you buy them and you get one. You only want one at the end of the spell, and then some you can buy and there's actually 2 good ones. So
that's the reason why I never bought the Warp Lightning Vortex like the original.
Although
it's just
on that subject,
that one.
We mentioned Scuttletide and what it does. The Vermintide does a similar thing. Doesn't have that unlimited range, but it has a similar thing where it triggers when something moves within range of it or charged within range of it. But unlike Scuttletide, that's 3-inch range rather than 1-inch trigger.
And it's a larger base.
Yeah, I don't think it's as long, but it's deeper. Yep. And it's a better model because the Scuttletide model is shit. Honestly.
Yes, it looks very bad.
It's like they had some space and like
copy pasted some spider outlines onto it. Let's talk about the Rupture. What does a Rupture do?
Yeah, very quickly in the chat. Oliver in the chat says, anyone else get the feeling number 1 be Warp Lightning Vortex? No, because this is all
alternatives.
These are options other than Warp Lightning Vortex. So Warp Lightning Vortex is basically S tier. This is the top 10 below. So, like, if you include a Realm Scourge Rupture, Warp Lightning Vortex, and Realm Scourge Rupture would be number 4 rather than number 3. This is the top 10, excluding Warp Lightning Vortex. Sorry, you were going to say.
Realm Scourge Rupture, 60 points, which is neat. So if you you don't have enough points to fill in your Vortex for 80. This is 60, so it gives you 20, those 20 points that sometimes you struggle with. It's set up with a 9 and moves 9. So again, it has that 19-inch threat range. This is similar to the Pendulum, where you set it up in a direction and it can only move forward. It can only move towards, you have these spikes on the image. You set it up with the spikes facing outwards. It can only move in that direction. It's like a gate moving through, plowing through the battlefield, which is cool because it cannot bite you in the ass and you can plan where it's going. Then it deals D3 mortal wounds. Who cares? Some mortal wounds, nice to have. The thing here is that it halves the move characteristic until the end of the battle round. So even if you take first, it's gonna move. It's gonna halve it, and most importantly, it's gonna halve. Like if you take second, your opponent move forward. You throw this in front of him, so like 0.9 inches away. It's gonna have his movement, no matter what, in the next round anyway. Because either you move it and you move it. I would suggest you even just keep it in front of him.
Yeah, you don't move
Not
it over.
move it across.
Just move it.
Or he moves it over, and it's like it's guaranteed. It's a guaranteed effect for the next round, because it happens before he has the chance to dispel it.
And we mentioned,
and it still applies.
Also, like the thing with a lot of the wall spells, because this is basically a wall spell as well. Yep. It blocks a channel. I'm not sure the exact length of it, but it's long enough to be
it's very similar to the runic firewall. It's small.
X amount of fingers.
Let me check. I have a scale here. What is this? Centimeters. Where's inches? Up here. I think it's around 6 inches.
Okay. So you could put it in between two bits of terrain. It will probably block a channel. As well.
You could. But this is the D3 multiple wounds is nice to have. The whole play of this is delaying getting charged.
Yes. And I'm not sure how Matt was using it, but the way Kron was using it was he was giving away turn one. And let's be honest, a lot of stuff now can cross the board pretty easily, or teleport across. So he was deploying in the corner. People teleporting across or moving across to try and go for the boat and stuff. And then he was casting the spell, and then because this is back when Kron was using Nerva, so he was casting it basically near his deployment zone, and then just flying high to the other corner of the board. And then basically, because he deployed in the corner, something's moved to the corner, and then you cast a spell that stops them, halves their movement, so they can't move out of the corner very easily as well. So you trick your opponent going out of position, potentially.
Yeah. I think Matt uses this in Mourner, so in combination with the having the charge. Having the charge with the fuck you stuff from Mourner. So basically you can half move someone and then half charge. So you're pretty safe with your boat, even if you're 12 inches away because you want to shoot your carbines.
Oh, and let's not forget, if it's a flying unit and you've got a navigator, so you can half move. So they'll be on a quarter of their movement because you're half and then half again.
Yes.
So
on the base characteristics, if they have any add to move or add to charge,
or run and
added.
Charge.
Then. That is added afterwards. But still, that's great. The way I used it is I deployed my Thunderers and then put the Realm Scourge Rupture in front of them. So if someone wants to get into the Thunderers, they need to move around it. Like first you need to move 3 inches sideways and then forward, and doing all this with half move. So it's more difficult to charge me or to get to
and
it.
You could move out of range of it. Out of range of its 1 inch effect, but then you've got to move further sideways as well. So
it will apply maybe for 2 rounds and then it's gone because it's moved elsewhere, or it doesn't affect anyone. But that 1 round or that 2 rounds delaying the charge, screwing with your opponent's movement, that's well worth the 60 points because that might win you the game.
Yeah. Another thing you can do with this, if your opponent's got flying units that have got quite a high move, so it's say your opponent has riggers, for example, just because we all know what riggers are. They move 12 inches. And there's lots of flying units with 12-inch move. You could actually set it up so it's pointing away from their deployment zone. So if they fly, they'll be half move, so they'll be down to 6 inches. They'll be able to get over the top. But they'll fly over it, but then it's moving towards where they're going to go. So they will be chasing after them. in the
Yeah,
future.
either they need to go sideways or it's chasing.
Yeah.
Another thing is it's difficult to get off. That you put it on the side of their front line and just move it across multiple units. Tag them like slightly tilted towards them, and you just move it across to get like 2 units or 3 units and still block a bit of movement. But that's situational. But there's a lot of flexibility in this. There's a lot of play in this. I think it's a well-deserved 3rd place.
One slight caveat to this, and also for Warp Lightning Vortex, is there's just a lot of teleport in the game now. So it doesn't matter if their movement characteristic is half if they can teleport.
Yeah, obviously, yes.
Yeah. Which is just an unfortunate thing, really.
But it's already, you're moving better than anyone else because you're teleporting, and now you're decreasing their movement.
Yes.
So you're playing into your strengths.
Yeah. So just catching up the chat before number 2. Kranadulista says it's an awesome video. Thank you very much. The new snake looks cool. Jay Durfu is saying the first spell, which was the Dais Arcanum, could be made easily if you, for unused parts, if you have at least 2 gyrocopters and use bomber bits.
Yes, that's great. That's an idea. I have 3 bomber bits left over. The 4th one I used to convert to steam tank. And I thought about it. I just need to find in my household some kind of plastic disc, like some cap of some bottle or something, some product, some lid, and then I'm gonna do that. That's a great idea because they have
could
that
you just use a
fuel tank
base?
thing. I could. What I want to do is like a ring. Basically, I need to find a ring or a cap, and I cut out the middle, and then I'm just gonna craft some, basically a grudge stone or a rune stone, and have it like the what are they called, the honor bearer from the Thunderers. They have a stone like pinched in between, like with screws. I want to do the same. So in the middle it's a magic stone and it's just screwed in, and then have some tubes and tanks and bits dangling about.
Okay.
And it's a flying grudge stone from a Warden King.
Yeah. So you want something
Oathstone. Oathstone is the name. Yeah, it's basically a flying oathstone.
What you need is you can buy plastic washers. That's what I used for my Aether Gold tokens. You can get them in different sizes and they have different thicknesses. So that's what you need is them.
I'll find something.
You can buy them for
in the trash, or
you can buy them for like 15 pence or something, but then the delivery will cost you like.
I'll find something in the plastic trash somewhere.
Yes.
I just need to get to it. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so that's number 3. So let's
what could be better than that?
Let's look at our. Oh, and I was talking about the chat. Hello to Yeti as well. Sorry, didn't want to miss him out. I was talking about everything else in the chat. The penultimate pick: Geminids of Uhl-Ghysh or Uhl-Ghysh. Oh, however, Geminids. Everyone just calls them Geminids, unless you're Vince from Twitter, and then he says Geminids. Just, I think, purely to wind people up, probably.
Not entirely.
I don't know, because he says he quite often mispronounces things intentionally. Like he always says, I can't even say how he says robots, but he definitely says like that intentionally.
Okay.
So I know it could be.
There's a
Geminids.
There's a reason to, because it's from Latin. But yeah, I think in English it's Geminids.
But so are you saying in Latin it should be Geminids?
Gemini.
Oh, okay.
Would be the twins, but okay.
Okay. So you just
let's not delve into
more
that.
Latin than us.
Let's
maybe more Latin than me.
Maybe Tom. I think Tom, his field of expertise is language and stuff like that. Maybe.
Well, I think Tom calls it Gemini, so.
Because probably in English that's the right way to. Anyway, 2 floating ping pong balls.
And away
one
from
black, one red.
Pronunciation hammer.
Exactly. Let's not embarrass ourselves. Someone will post a comment, tell us how it's really done. Belacroix. But Belacroix is great. That's how the French pronounce it. And the Canadian.
Oh dear.
Geminids, I think we all know what they do. We all hate bound Geminids.
Aren't they 70 now?
No. Could be.
You said
no,
70.
I think no, 70 is bound Geminids is 70.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yes,
Which is still too cheap.
Yeah, there were 40 originally, though, which was stupid. Yeah, cast on a 7. So, okay-ish to spell. Average, but not bad. Not as good as Warp Lightning Vortex or Purple Sun for your opponents. But set up 18 inches away and moves 8 inches. That is very important because you can use this without the Zilfin Fly High. Because
26 is a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So 2 models. You set them up. First one wholly within 18 inches, and the second one also has to be wholly within 18 inches and within 6 inches of the first one.
Yes.
So, and then when they move, they both can move 8 inches, but they have to end the move within 6 inches of each other. So you can't sort of set them both up and have like this and then go whoop, whoop, and go off in different directions. You can kind of do this.
You could, but then you would dispel them.
Yeah.
By doing that, I think.
So yeah. Well, it just says it just says they can't end the move.
No.
So it would be an illegal move.
You can't, and if you cannot set them up, then they're automatically dispelled.
Yeah. So, and then they both do D3 mortal wounds to all units they pass over. Unlike some others, these don't have the and units within 1 inches at the end of the move. It's only units passed over. They both can't pass over the same units.
Well, they can pass over. They cannot affect the same.
Yes. Or if they do, the first one to pass over does the thing, which is important for the other thing, which is one of them has an effect to do -1 attack, and the other one does -1 to hit.
So, which one is which? The dark or the light?
I can't remember. I don't know. I don't
know either. I think the light one does -1 to hit, and the other one -1 attack. I'm not sure. You just need to clarify with your opponent which one is which one does which, and it's important for him to decide which one he moves first. Yes, this is very annoying if you get hit with it, because it's -1 to hit or -1 attack, depending what kind of unit you're having. It's even more annoying if your opponent has the bound version, because only he can use them and move them, and there's no downside to it.
Unfortunately, if we take the bound version, as we said earlier,
we can't do anything.
Potentially, you could rules law it to say you can move them the first time they're set up, but you definitely can't move them in later turns. So, if
these fly over your ship, they hit everything inside the ship, which is also very annoying. But we're talking about using them ourselves, and then they're great because I think mostly because of the -1 to hit.
Yeah, a -1 attack is relevant as well because, like, for instance, Lumineth with proccing mortal wounds on a 5+, if you can decrease the number of attacks, then that would affect that, whereas -1 to hit won't.
Yes. But mostly it's, I think, math hammer-wise, mostly the -1 to hit has a bigger impact, especially if you add, a -1 to hit from a Khemist and a -1 to hit from a Fumigator. Now someone's hitting your Thunders with -3 to hit.
Yeah,
which
and
is
if you've got
6s, basically.
You can make a list as well with this, and you have whatchamacallit, vent plates as well. Just
and it's -2, yep.
Yeah, just to add to that. So it's good.
They're
because
rather small. I think, what are they, 32 or 40 mil bases?
32 mil bases, so they're really easy to find somewhere for them to land, which is good because they have to be within 6 inches of each other. And they do some damage, which is pretty decent. That's like the bare minimum, really, for an endless spell. So they do some damage, but it's guaranteed damage as well, because some, it's on a roll. Like, we mentioned that about Warp Lightning Vortex, it's not guaranteed damage. or Purple Sun is not guaranteed. For instance, an extra 10 points, you get this, and it's guaranteed damage. But then it's the debuffs. It's the reason you take these.
Yes, I think when they're empowered, there's two versions, highish or shyish. I think so. Light or dark.
Got
Either
more
way,
chance of being empowered.
Yeah, but you only empower one of them, not both. Unless you're in cities where you just empower both. What it does, you can re-roll the D3 mortal wounds, which is okay. You're not going to choose a realm for that.
No,
honestly.
I mean, could you imagine if it was -2 to hit? Oh,
yeah,
-2 attacks, it would be,
be
amazing.
No.
Would be so triggering. But yeah, I think they're a really strong pick because
60 points again, 20 less than Warp Lightning. You can use this even without Zilfin. You just have a Khemist inside the ship because it's a 26-inch. 26-inch range. You can zigzag them over like entire armies and give everyone -1 to hit.
One good thing about these is generally there's an issue with KO with double turns. Great if we get it, not so good if we get double turned or so this can help mitigate it because your opponent having a turn and getting into combat with you when they're -1 attack or -1 to hit is not so bad as if they've got their normal characteristics. So helps mitigate that a bit. And the issues about it coming back and hitting you is not so bad because the setup is 18 inches away. So
yeah, but the move is only 8, so
yeah, so you can pretty much guarantee to set it up and then move it somewhere where it won't come back and hit you. So at least not the next turn.
One question: if I combine this with a Darkfire Demon Rift, do they count as 2 or as 1?
It counts as 1 because it's like all of these things like this and the bridge are the same issue with it's like more than one model, but it's it counts as one ender spell that consists of 2 models.
Okay.
And the Demon Rift triggers based on
because then
spells.
you could use shackles with 3 models.
Yes. It's not the number of models, it's the number of ender spells in range for Demon Rift. Yeah, because that would be really good if you could have this and then give +2 on Demon Rift.
Okay.
But yeah. So, I mean, is there anything else to say about this? I mean, debuffs is pretty simple, really. It's sometimes simple is better because you can just slot this in. You can slot this into Zilfinus, you can slot this into Urbaz or Mornar, or
and with the because they're predatory, you can apply them multiple times. You just move them back and forth, and I'm gonna move it over here, and I'm gonna move it back over. Especially if you have like a not moving combat situation somewhere, you just multiple times, just every round, you just move it over them.
Yeah. Cool. So, drum roll.
Number 1. What might it be?
Number 1, top of the list, or second top of the list if you include Warp Lightning Vortex, is a cheat because it's 2 ender spells. But it's Chromatic Cogs / Bound Cogs. We're including them as one thing.
Is it 2? Like, okay, we'll get into this, but I'd say it's just 1.
It's like it's just really they're the same but slightly different. So, but it's not worth giving them 2 different slots because it's 10 points for basically the same thing.
No, my question is, would you ever use the normal one?
Yes. Kyle Calip that we've Beards of Glory that we've had on the show a few times, he debated this a bit because he was using cogs before Seraphon came out, and he's like, "Oh, are you going to switch to bound cogs now?" And he debated it, and he decided to stick with cogs because he liked having the incanter for the dispel.
Okay.
And he didn't really gain anything from taking out the 120 points in his list.
Okay. But okay, the issue remains. So the difference between chromatic cogs and bound cogs is that the normal cogs, they need a wizard keywords to manipulate. To either add 2+ move and charge, or reroll saves and an extra spell. Is it spell attempt or unbind attempt? I'm not sure, but a spell attempt. Or and the bound one just requires a caster, which limits it to one model that can actually interfere, but it opens it up to be manipulated by the Khemist.
Yeah,
because he casts it.
The other thing is about the bound one is your opponent can't manipulate it either. So if they kill your Khemist and then go over there, they can't manipulate it.
If they kill the Khemist, it's just standing there.
Yeah, and gets left on whatever he had it on, the setting he had on. But yeah, normal
But it resets between. It only resets each hero phase, so then it just has no setting.
Oh, does it? Oh, okay.
I think so. Don't you need to choose one?
I thought once it was chosen, I don't know. Let me check.
I thought you need the effect lasts until the next.
It's funny because this is like the one spell that I didn't even look at the war scrolls for. Everyone knows what Cogs does.
I always use the bound Cogs. Because I don't.
Yes, the effects last until their next hero phase, or until an enemy wizard chooses to manipulate. Yeah, so you do need to have a wizard there to manipulate it.
So then it just
all the Khemists actually.
But what it does is you set it within 12, but you want to set it up within 9, at least the bound one, because you want to manipulate it. You need to be within 9, which is great because some spells you need to be like within 1 inch to do stuff. But this is 9, and this is helpful. I use this in Barrack Zone to get everyone +2 to charge and +2 to move. So I use the bound cogs with a Khemist, and I set him up 9 inches in front of him, or in the direction I want to move the Khemist, so he can still manipulate it in later turns, still being within 9, but moving the direction he wants to use to go. So that's helpful. If it would be like within 1 inch, then he needs to stay where he is, because these are not predatory; they just stick around. Why is +2 move so great for an army that can teleport? Why is this number 1? It's great because you add movement to your big units of engine riggers, for example, that cannot hitch 12-man units. So now they're 14-inch move. But the most important is that it gives +2 charge to units that have hitched or flown high outside of 9, and now they get a +2. If you add a Skyhook, then it's +3. With the Ironclad Great Skyhook, it's +4. And that's a neat trick you can do with the Battle Ram. So now you're charging someone with the Ironclad with a +4, and then you roll the number of dice of the charge roll, not the unmodified charge roll, but the charge roll. So the +4 dice, and deal mortal wounds on a 4. It doesn't help if you roll a 5, like if you fail a 5+ charge twice in a row, as I did yesterday in my game. I rolled a 4 and a 3 on the reroll. That doesn't help, but usually it really helps to get your engine riggers or your Skywarns in zone into combat with a +3. Teleport over there, get a +3, and just throw them in. Get your gun hauler with a Spar torpedo, a +2 to do his D6 mortal wounds. It's just great. Downside is everyone gets this. Everyone, it's great. It's a huge area effect. The whole battlefield, you don't need to be wholly within someone, but also your opponent gets this. So there'll be +2 move and +2 charge, although mostly they forget it. You tell them and they just forget to do it. So that's maybe one thing that kept people from using it, because no, I don't want to give a buff to my opponent. No, that's horrible. Why would I ever do that? But just having that guaranteed, or almost guaranteed charges, like shooting and then getting people into the fray. Awesome. The
thing is, a 9-inch charge is just not reliable. Like
no.
In fact, it's almost a definition of unreliable. It's
27% chance.
Just looking at the chat. Khemist Manifesto is in the chat saying it's +2 to move. It's +2 to move and +2 to charge. So it does buff the battle ram as well. But 9-inch charge is unreliable. It's not even close to be. It's not even 50-50. It's
27%.
Just moving it to a notch where it's more reliable is really useful.
So you move it to a 7, which is great, and we have means to add more, which is great.
Okay,
Fantastic.
he's saying it's +2 to the charge move, not the charge roll. I don't think it actually says. I mean,
are you ruining my zone list?
I don't think
where I just assembled my 12 Skywardens.
I don't think it makes a difference because the reason it's good is because because of this potential 1 extra or 2 extra mortal wounds. It's not the reason you take cogs. The reason you take cogs is because you don't fail you're less likely to fail your charge.
Let me check.
And lose all the other mortal wounds. So whether it works on the battle ram or not is kind of not that important, because as long as it's important whether you actually get the charge or not.
No, it says in addition, add 2 to charge rolls.
Okay.
For all units on the battlefield, at least on the bound ones. Maybe the text on the normal ones is different.
Do you want to check the normal ones? Because there is other things because this is the other thing is most people just assume that the bound cogs has the same wording, and it's like, you need to be.
No, they're not. Here it says in addition, add 2 to charge rolls for all units. No, same wording.
Yes. So you
add to the roll.
Oh, he's reading it off my slide. Yeah, because sorry about that. The slides are paraphrased.
Lee.
Yeah, well,
Arcan thoughts all over again.
Yeah, well, I didn't feel like I needed to write rolls, but I mean,
also
because I thought we'd explain
it's good. It's good that he brought it up to clarify.
Yeah, it's good that we clarified it as well, because the fact that it's definite. But
that was a bit uncertain.
I mean, the reason this is number 1, because you say, well, I don't want to play Zon, I want to play Zilfin, whatever. It's not just good in a Zon list, because objectives are important. Okay? This game is won by getting on objectives. And, flying high and being 9 inches away from an opponent means that you quite often won't be on an objective, but being able to charge means you will be on an objective. And therefore, even in Zilfin, this spell can be useful. Because, you've got your Zilfin trick once per battle, but it's only once per battle.
In Zilfin, you auto run 6. So now you can auto run or move 12 inches with Arcanauts.
With Arcanauts, yeah.
Which is a lot.
Well, the other thing you can do is, and no one ever does this, and I've never done it, but is you can use the once per battle hero phase move on Arcanauts rather than a ship. It's not, but everyone uses it for ships, obviously. But and it used to be in the old book just ships, but it's any unit can move, and the automatic 6-inch run doesn't work in the hero phase. It only works in the movement phase. But you can spend a command point to run 6. So, and they would get +2 move, and even without cogs, they could move 20 inches. Like a unit of 30 or 40 Arcanauts, and just run on an objective. But with cogs, they would move 24.
Well, engine riggers in Zilfin now auto run 20 inches.
They're 18, and then
because they go 14, and they go guaranteed 6 run. 20 inches. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's just like, this is your tool for getting onto objectives, basically, in any chaos.
Your gun holder once per game can move 20 inches and then still charge and shoot to get his Spark Torpedo into someone.
Yeah, and have +2 to that charge as well.
Yeah. So There's a lot of play in this. There's a lot of movement. Yes, you could argue, why is this number one? Because it buffs my opponent. But it fits very neatly into Kharadron, especially if you're bringing allies or over Dwarven units, which are moving 4 inches. Like you're bringing your Rune Smiter with his 20 Hearthguard as your in Barrack Fring as your Dwarven units, because you want to have some melee punch. They're gonna tunnel 9 inches away. Well, now they get a +2 to charge. They need a 7, which you can reroll with that hero if you have a command point, which is great. You can have Gotrek in your list, and he's actually faster. Like he can go 12 inches with a command point.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the fact that it's just auto. It automatically happens. You can do it with a Khemist in the back corner. Like someone would need to use resources to kill him or stop him or like dispel it.
And move out of position as well.
Move out position to actually dispel it 30 inches away because he's in the back corner. Because it affects the whole board. It's probably most people will not bother because they actually want the +2 move themselves.
And the +2 charge, yeah.
Yeah, so people,
God forbid your opponent has cogs as well. And you get +4.
And that happened that happened in a game I played against Zeraphon with Zon with bound cogs, and he had the normal cogs because he said, "Why would I use bound in Zeraphon? Because they're not predatory. What's the use?" So my Ironclad got +6 to charge on its rolls, and killed a lot of dinosaurs.
Yeah,
by ramming them straight out. So that can happen. But it's people I think I played 15 games now with that list. Not in one did anyone try to dispel it.
The thing about this is we talked about situationally good. This one isn't situationally good because you will always want to get onto objectives.
Even if it only increases your threat range by 2 inches for your shooting.
This one is not situationally good also in terms of your list because, as you said, it can be useful in Fring, useful in Urbaz, Zon, Mornar. In fact, if you put it in Mornar, you buff your opponent, we give them +2 to charge, but then they're going to be half charge movements anyway, so there'll be half, then the +2. So actually, their charging is still going to be potentially quite bad on the Ironclad in Mornar with this.
Don't you have the charge roll? And this adds to the charge roll.
Yes, but you have to do multiplication or division before adding and subtraction, and that is confirmed also in an FAQ. That's like basic maths, but they also confirmed that yes, that's also how we do it in the rules, as opposed to you have to do you would half it then add the 2, but it still means that they've got a bad charge potentially.
It's gotten better, but still bad.
If you're really concerned about buffing your opponent, that can mitigate it. And with the run and shoot in Mornar as well, +2 move. With run and shoot increases your threat range. So there's that.
Yes.
Yeah. So bound cogs or cogs, whichever one you want to pick. Have lots of potential for actually playing the game as opposed to trying to kill your opponent.
Yeah, if people see your list and spell a bottle and they're like, "Oh," and then they say cogs, they're like, "What? Why?
Yeah.
What's happening?" There's no negative plagues, although getting rammed and dealing 13 mortal wounds with an Ironclad maybe is a negative plague experience, but it's not as a bad feeling for your opponent as a Warp Lightning Vortex. We talked about this, and I think this is also important, be like the bad guys, the bad KO players. Oh, you're just playing this bad stuff, Warp Lightning Vortex killing me, I don't even want to play you. I think potentially to win the game this is stronger, because it helps you move around.
Yeah, and we mentioned about the conversion possibilities for some spells.
You don't.
And most of that was like, you can add cogs to things. Here you go. This one you don't need to. Although, if you don't even want to buy a set for this, you can literally just buy some cogs and stick them on a base.
Yeah, you can buy some like plastic cogs from eBay. There's like bags and bags of little punched or plastic cogs, and you just glue them together, add some green stuff, and you're done. No one will complain.
Okay, we've had another question about bound spells. Again, I think quite a few people are coming to the show late because of time zones and things. Yeah, if we take bound versions of other endless spells, then you can't move them. You arguably can move them the first time they're set up, if they're predatory any spell that says they can be moved the first time they're set up. You could potentially get TO's rule against that. But you definitely won't be able to move them turn 2 or 3. So you can still take them, but you can't move them.
Yeah.
So then they're not that useful.
And the reason why we take bound cogs is because it says caster and not wizard, which means Khemist can manipulate them.
Yes.
That's the whole play around that limitation with cogs. Or the other way, as we said, you take an encounter and have the spell on the bottle to auto cast it to guarantee it, and he just manipulates it for you.
Yeah. And then there's another person in the chat is asking about, well, mobility is one of our greatest advantages. So do we really debuff that? But it's the fact you have to be 9 inches away. So cogs means, Ender Riggers will be on +3 if they've got a Skyhook, and the ship will be on +4, and you can actually get those charges and get onto the objectives and kill stuff with your saws or your Skypikes or whatever.
So it's a question of maybe also list philosophy. Do you want to use an endless spell to improve your the things you can't do as good with Kharadron? Maybe fighting, or decreasing your opponent's fighting with -1 attack, -1 to hit. Or do you want to play into your strengths and get the most out of your great movement by reducing their movement with a barricade, Realm Scourge, Rupture, or cogs, making you even faster, making you better and get where you want to?
Yeah, and it's like there's tech against shooting as well. So doing damage through, battle ram. Warp Lightning Vortex can do a fair bit of damage.
Yes.
It's not necessarily targeted damage. It's a little bit random.
You set it up somewhere, and it's going to stay there.
Like if you've got battle ram and cogs and a Skyhook, every turn you can pretty much do some mortal wounds with your Ironclad, and then follow it up at the beginning of the combat phase, drop your bombs.
And then actually fight, with someone inside.
Yeah. So, and then that's all stuff that, like, say if you're against Plague Bearers at -2 to hit and shooting, doesn't matter. Because you just get charging.
Yeah. Eels with 2+ save unrendable.
Yeah. Heroes with -1 to hit from Lookout Sir.
Model them. Just throw a boat at them.
Throw a boat at them. Drop a boat and squish them, and drop the anchor on them, and use your shooting to kill the units that aren't -1 to hit. And
we always have that. I'm gonna take a gun hauler with 6 Ending Riggers and threaten your objectives. If they, definitely do. If you haven't got one Ironclad,
you need one.
We always talk about, great, I can have these 7 models and teleport them anywhere and shoot you. If they deploy Clever on their objective, and it doesn't need much, if they're either standing in the center or 3 inches apart, you cannot land on that objective. You shoot them off, you overdo it, they're dead, you can't charge them, you're not getting on the objective, you're not scoring your turn. And then, you have a Skyhook, so your boat's charging needs a 9, and your Ending Riggers need an 8. You don't have a hero there to reroll. If you fail those, you're just standing around with your crown jewels in your hand, basically. But now you're adding a +2 you're getting a +3 on those engine riggers. They're going to get in and they're going to chop stuff up. The boat's getting a +2, so you can charge it in, drop some bombs, and have it within 6 inches of the engine riggers to do the same thing next turn again, like to depart, get everyone on hitching, and go somewhere else. Because if you charge one out and the other one not, then you're too far apart, and then it's just stupid.
Because the thing with the engine riggers is you want them near the boat to heal it. So if one goes in, the other one doesn't.
Yeah, mostly. Yeah, you want them to heal the boat, but I think most importantly, you want them to be wholly within 6 to actually hitch next turn.
And the other thing is, it doesn't matter if you don't kill the enemy unit. Like if you leave there with one model left, you can fly high out of there and attack another unit. I mean, you kind of do want to kill them for kill points and stuff, but it depends where they are as well. But
depends on the scenario, if you can burn the objective or not, and so on.
You know, if you've got a hero in your boat, you could get the hero out of the boat and then fly high away.
Also, what often happens, like their unit is like a little line or a little string or a little curve on an objective. You start shooting, he's going to remove models from closest to you to make it harder for you to charge. So having a plus to charge there is also very helpful.
Yeah.
No, I think overall it's the most universal utility you can get out of the spell, and that's why I think it's a well-deserved number 1.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you disagree, you need to like the video, subscribe, and then you can post a comment telling us why you disagree.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see as well in the comments, post your top 10, because the order we put these in, you might disagree with. You might say, Darkfire Demon Rift should be number 4 instead of number 7, and these other ones should go down. So post in the comments what you think your top 10 would be.
Is there anyone that we missed? You say, this one is great because of this and this and this. Yeah. Post it, let us know. I'd be happy to play it, change it out.
Yeah, even if there's honourable mentions, you think they're not worthy for top 10, but they should have got an honourable mention, let us know. That'd be cool to see.
Yeah, there's a Flesh Eater horsey cavalcade thing that also screws with movement, I think.
No,
not
the horses. The barricade screws with movement.
Yeah, but what do the horses do? I also considered them.
The horses do mortal wounds, but they have 14-inch move, which means they will hit a lot of units.
So there's some ones, and the nice thing with Spell on the Bottle is every army that's released for Age of Sigmar, potentially we get new toys for KO.
Yes. I mean, well, we've got Blooddrag Viper on the list, and Blade Wind. Blade Wind was an honourable mention. The other cool thing, just generally, just about Endless Spells, is the kit bash opportunities and the painting, because they always have like this or flames,
magic
stuff that you can do some nice, something cool and colourful, practice some blending, or you can just dry brush it if you want to do it quick.
Shade it, dry brush it,
do some cool stuff, and it looks nice and colourful in your army. There's opportunities for kit bash, and working on something that's one model like this can be sort of nice after doing a unit. Just does
definitely changes it up.
Changes it up. It's a bit different to doing KO stuff, and fun to do.
Convert a little bit. Yeah, it's great. It's a good chance to also give some flavor to your army. You have a special theme. Maybe it's the bridge is not a bridge with bones, but it's like a beer cart that you're transporting beer barrels across, or there's endless opportunities, and there's so many creative people out there that have done things, and then there's us just copying those things.
Or copying each other.
Copying each other. Inspiring each other. Yeah.
Yes.
That's great stuff. Let us know what you've done, what you like.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you can't put pictures on YouTube, but on Facebook. Put some pictures on Facebook.
The Kharadron Facebook group. We'll rate them from 1 to 10.
Yes. And we haven't talked about Warp Lightning Vortex, but yeah, if you've got cool pictures of Warp Lightning Vortexes, stick them on there too.
Yeah.
Gary's Manifesto says his Warp Lightning Vortex is booby-trapped warpstone. So, yeah, sounds cool. I'm guessing that Sky Mines are the booby traps.
Yeah, Sky Mines are great. You always have so many Sky Mines left over.
Yeah.
I also attached mine to my Vortex.
Vortex is my next one to do. I haven't fully figured out the conversion I want to do, but that's the box of spells sitting there because I decided I do want to use some of the Warp Lightning Vortex stuff.
Okay, the swirl on the lightning.
No, probably the lightning stuff because I looked in what I had left over from Malign Sorcery and there wasn't really anything that I felt was going to be useful.
Not for that, no.
Lastly, Alexander Hernando in the chat asked if Prismatic Palisade is good or not. Maybe it could have got an honourable mention. The trouble is it's going to mess with your shooting potentially.
Yes, with your own shooting.
Yes, which you don't want. It's a wall, which is cool. Wall spells are good because, they've got to move around them or around them and a terrain piece, depending where you put it. The line of sight potentially will mess with spells, depending on the spell.
Yes, and it does also a -1 to hit on a 5+, I think. If you start within 6, because it's so dazzling bright.
Yeah, but the fact that it could potentially mess with your own shooting is a little bit annoying.
Yes. Another
typically
one.
You'd want it if you're using it as a wall. You'd want it between you and your opponent to stop them coming towards you. In which case, it will be messing with your shooting.
Depends who you face. If you face a shooting unit, you can put it on in front of you, protect yourself from shooting, and then just fly over it and attack. Another maybe one that people have from the Malign Sorcery box is the Gravetide, which is just a massive model, a big base. It's very cheap, I think 20 or 30 points, and that's a big blocker wall kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's just
slowly.
Massive. It moves slowly, but it's just a massive base.
And again, the problem with that one, which is why I think we picked Whelmscourge Rupture as the wall spell, is it gives cover against shooting attacks.
If they're within 1 inch of it,
The whole unit has to be within 1 inch, so you don't necessarily want to do that. But yeah, I mean, I think we covered everything. Well, we got to number 1, so we covered the list. Thanks everyone for watching. Thank you, Max, for joining me.
Yes,
and
maybe one thing I'd like to mention. Maybe people have seen. We brought up our first real-life battle reports. This week. So if you
Sunday's the beginning of the week, isn't it? So this week.
If you haven't seen it, check that out. It's our first attempt, or my first attempt. If there's improvements or changes you'd like to see, please leave a comment. So we'll try to make this a more frequent thing once we can get back to gaming.
And you are playing somebody soon. Well, I can't remember what it is. Is it Slaanesh or
yes, I'm planning to play and film a match next Wednesday against Slaanesh Demons with the new book. Obviously, what we try is to have a balanced game. So I'm not going to take my top tournament list and just blow someone up off the board in 2 rounds, and that's not a nice video to watch for most people. So I'll try to have an equal list. Obviously, I'm a bit limited what I have painted because I prefer not to show unpainted models on a video. But yeah, that's something coming up. So with editing and bringing it up, probably in a week's time, we'll hopefully have a new
latter part next week, probably.
Yeah, it depends how much time I have to actually do the editing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
Cool.
that's something. I enjoy doing. The format is, I think, quite consumer friendly because it's just half an hour, 40 minutes.
Yes, I
It's
prefer that.
not sitting through entire 3 hours of me trying to film my dice rolls.
You only listen to us talk for 2.5 hours every week,
Yeah.
so you don't listen to Max rolling dice for 2.5 hours as well.
So yeah, check that out. For now, it's me doing it with my friends who whatever painted armies we have and we can find. But I'm sure in the future we'll have also other people.
Yes,
from our crew
are dropping. So I'm hoping to either do something, even if it's not video format, if I can do something with photos and do like post-match analysis.
Get some content, because we talk a lot about lists and how they work and what you could do potentially. It's like if you see it applied, it's easier to understand and follow and see what the actual plays are.
Yeah. So yeah, if you haven't watched that yet, go check it out and keep your eyes peeled for the next one. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit like. As we mentioned, comment about your thoughts on Endless Spells, and please hit subscribe. But until the next time, Skyfarers, stay safe and keep watching the skies or something. I don't know. That'll do. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.